Good morning. This is Reed, Director of Information Services with the Slade Centers. And today I'd like to talk to you about how to market your small business with virtually no money. And let's talk about ways you can get marketing, ways you can get started if you have zero budget. Okay, first step, pull up your cell phone. Every person that you know in your cell phone, ask them this question. Hey, I just started a small business. Do you know anyone that I could help? I'd really appreciate it. And call everybody that you know. Number two, do you belong to a social networking site, such as Facebook, MySpace? Contact everybody that you know on Facebook or MySpace and ask them, hey, I just started a small business. This is what we do. Do you know anyone that could help? I'd really appreciate it. And you're going to say, Reed, I really don't want to impose on my friends like that. If you're starting a small business, you want to not be silent. Because if you don't believe in your service enough to ask your friends for help, you shouldn't have a small business. Because your business will go out of business very quickly. You have to ask yourself, if you are providing a good service at a good fee and you have people that like what you do. If so, then you're justified in asking your friends if they will help you. If someone says, Reed, I'm offended that you would ask for my help, how good of a friend were they? And on Facebook, what if they never talk to you again? I have people on Facebook that I haven't talked to in 6 months. And if they defriend me, will it be a big deal to me? Not really. I don't care. I care about my family and my friends. And if I can feed them, that's what matters. Remember, we're providing a good service. This isn't a scam. This isn't something I'm going to be hesitant about introducing them to. This is a good service at a good value with good quality. And if you provide all that, tell everybody you know. Okay, next step is, let's say that you have $20 a week for an advertising budget. Get some cardstock from Office Depot or Office Max or any one of the office supply stores. Make up a flyer. I prefer the 4-ups. And a 4-up is I have 4 flyers on 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I cut them up so I have 4 individual flyers, and then I pass these out. Whether that's in gas stations, whether I'm going to a parking lot and putting them under people's windshields, whether I go to a mall and hand them to people as they're coming out, whether I go downtown and hand them out to business people as they're walking by on lunch hour, whatever you do, this is a way. If you have $0, this can move you forward a little bit more. Now, what I've also done is I have hired some nice looking models to hand out these flyers, because who's going to stop and want to talk to me? But a beautiful girl handing out these flyers, they just might stop and talk to. Word of caution, if you're handing out the flyers, you want to be there with the girls to make sure that if you're paying them by an hourly rate, they don't take your flyers that you spent time and effort and money to go ahead and print and just toss them into the dumpster and say, oh, I hand these all out. So you want to be there to make sure they don't just throw your materials away. Number 2, you want to give them an incentive. So if you have 2 girls, and I'll call them Alice and Barbara, you want to go ahead and have Alice put A on the right-hand corner of all of her flyers, and Barbara put B on the right-hand corner of all of her flyers. And so that as they pass these out, if people call in, you say, look on the bottom right-hand corner. Do you see an A or a B? And if they tell you, great. Now you can go ahead and say, you know, Alice, you went ahead and brought in $5,000 worth of business last month. We're going to give you a 10% or 5% 5% commission on that. If it was 10%, that'd be $500. If it was 5%, it'd be $250. You always give them a commission based upon their performance, because if there's no condition, if there's no conditional commission, why in the world should they work hard? They're just working for an hourly rate. They'll do just enough to get paid. So give them an incentive. I always give people an incentive. I would rather give people a direct incentive so they get a percentage of all that they earn rather than paying them an hourly rate. But that's just me. Call me stupid. What happens if you have a little bit more money? Business cards. You can pass out business cards everywhere you go. Now with the flyers and with the business cards, what you want to do is you want to have a headline that you do some skull sweat on, because this headline has to be so dynamic and so engaging that someone reads below the headline. If you just go ahead and throw things up there, if you don't have it visually appealing, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. Spend some skull sweat on writing this out. If you don't have the chops to write a great headline, go online, hire a writer, pay them 20, 30 bucks to give you a great headline. Then what I would do is I would test this. I would write out the headline, maybe 5 different headlines, on business cards, and I would pass these out to some friends and family. I'd say, when you see this, what do you think? Or I would do this with an A/B test. I'd go ahead and have my top 2 headlines and say, which one do you like better? Which one makes you stop and think? And do this with family, with friends, then with strangers. And what you can even do with strangers is, hey, I'm just doing a marketing test, see which one gathers more attention. Take a look at these 2, which one captures your eye more, which one makes you want to read more. And that might be a way for you to capture people's attention. You're asking for their help. Next, once you've done that, you've got business cards, you've got flyers, you placed ads in Craigslist and Backpage and every free online site you can. Now you want to consider advertising. Depending upon the type of service or the type of product, you want to make sure that the people that are reading that advertisement are a targeted market. For instance, if I'm trying to sell baby supplies, I wouldn't go to something for senior citizens because it's not the right targeted demographic. But if I'm looking to sell baby supplies and I put this into a young marrieds or young couples magazine or newsletter, one that is very directly targeted towards my target demographic, that's a very good opportunity. Similarly, with everything that you do, you have to ask yourself, who's going to read this? If they're not going to read it, you're wasting your time. Let's say that you have $500 a month in advertising budget. Now you can start placing these in periodicals, you can start placing these in newspapers. Before you do that, test small and see which one gives you the best results. Now what I would rather have you do is advertise in 5 different newspapers for $500 a month rather than advertise in one newspaper for $500 a month or $1,000 a month or $5,000 a month, whatever it is. Because you might have one source that is great, but you don't know which that source is. So I'd rather have you spread this around, because if you have one thing that's working well, but you have 3 that are working sort of well and one's not working at all, that's better than having one that's not working at all.